What's up, you guys? It has been, I feel like a long time. Um, so much has gone on, as a lot of you guys know. This eye is like twitching because it's like, what's going on? But I'm so happy to be back in my word with you guys. And let's just get this party started with getting back in our word. I was talking to my husband the other day because the last 12 days or so that it has been. I want to say it was on the 6th when my daughter officially got admitted. We were there very early on Thursday, the 6th, in the emergency room. And then she got admitted. Keep in mind, you guys, we went in because my daughter's finger was throbbing, it was pink. We left with them saying that her finger is dead and that it's going to fall off. That's how traumatic of an experience that we have gone through, okay? Um and the fact that I am still here and able to put a smile on my face is a real and true testament of God and the power that there is when you connect with God. Because when the doctors tell you there's no hope, God tells you that there is hope and the future for your life. When they tell you that your life is going to be all these medications, that your life, that there's no cure and all this junk and all this crap, excuse my language, for my daughter, I remind myself and I remind her of the vision that I have seen of her being healed, being happy, being successful, ministering to others, helping other children out of this same situation. And so don't believe the lies of the enemy. Don't fall into despair because of the hopeless conversations and reports that the doctors give you. They kept trying to feed us hopelessness, and I actually had scriptures written on the whiteboards that were there in our room. I had my Bible. I was so blessed that one of the pastors brought me and gave me his oil. I had asked God and I said, God, I forgot my oil because I was praying. I was reading my Bible and praying over my daughter when she was laying in bed. And I said, I forgot my oil, Lord. I wish I had my oil. And one of the pastors to my church, he brought this oil and he put it in my hand and he said, I don't know why I'm giving this to you, but something's telling me to give it to you. And I told him, I know why you're giving it to me because I asked for it from God. And he brought it and it was full. And that's how much I've been opening it and praying over my daughter with it. And so, if you find yourself in a situation, in a difficult situation where you've gotten a difficult diagnosis, if you're seeing this in the hospital, if you're admitted or you're there because of your child or your husband or whoever, don't lose hope. Don't lose hope. The doctors, what they know is so limited compared to what our creator, the one who created us, knows. And so it was just a very traumatic experience. I'm happy that we're at home. She's doing well. She's on so much medication. And a lot of it has like horrible side effects. She's at a high risk for infection because of one of them, or a few of them, I guess I should say. She's at risk for stomach cancer because of one of them. Just all these things. And here's the thing: is the doctors, they look at me like I'm crazy when they tell me all these side effects, and they're like, well, why don't you want to start these? I'm like, is anyone jumping at the chance to put their child at high risk for infection, like in a world full of infection? I mean, and so it was just, you guys, to say the least, it was something that I really had to stand in faith. I really had to be incredibly close and connected to God to just get through that experience. And I still, I only share this because if you're in this, I encourage you to do this as well. But it was something that I really had to fast through. From the first day that I was there, I felt in my spirit, you need to fast. And I never fasted so many days in a row. Well, I've tried. When my church does the 21 days of fasting and prayer, I would do that with them, but I would do so horrible. Like, I would cut corners. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, I would sneak a bite, and like, I never, I felt like fasting is something that I always try to do, but I feel like could never conquer. And I remember some of my friends were talking about how they were doing 3-day water fasts. which was very encouraging to me. And so, because that has been a discussion within our friend group, I felt on my spirit to do water fast. And I actually did water fast. And I remember the first time I did a water fast when I was there in the hospital. I felt great. I didn't have a headache. I wasn't hungry. I wasn't thinking about my body physically. I had my mind and my thoughts above that. I got through it so well that that again, I just kept, doing all these fasts while I was there. And my daughter, because my family, my children know when I'm fasting, because they'll be like, "Mommy, why aren't you eating?" I'm fasting today. And so my daughter was like, "Mom, that's like the best you've ever fasted." And it's because I really was so serious about trying to touch the hem of God's garment. I really was so serious about trying to get God's attention, to have him see us, to have him be compassionate on us, to help us get through this time intact, like, to really help us keep our eyes above. And so anyways, that's a little bit of that experience. We're home, and we're not stopping praying. We're not going to stop fasting. We're going to continue to push forward to the visions that I have seen of her healed. I've seen her healed, and I believe that sometimes God gives us visions in advance. Because he knows that what we're going to go through. He knows that those visions will keep us, that they will hold us, that they will maintain us, that they will keep our eyes there to continue to push forward through everything that we're going through. Right? I didn't know that we would have a horrible admission like this. I didn't know we'd go through all this trauma and all this experience. And he did. He knew what was ahead for us. And so I thank him for the visions that he has given us to help us keep that hope, to continue to push forward. And even now, while we're home, her finger is still looks black at the tip. And so we're just monitoring, and we have follow-up appointments, and we're still praying for full healing. He rose Lazarus from the dead. There is nothing that our God can't do. He is fully able to do all things, and we are relying on that power. We are relying on that strength. We are relying on that supernatural healing from God to help her out of this. And I know that there will come a day when we will testify that we kept the faith, that we were patient, that we pushed, that we wrestled like Jacob, that we kept believing against all circumstances, and we'll get to testify. And now she is fully healed, and she's on no medication, and she is thriving, and she is successful, and she is now ministering to others. And that's what I believe for her future. And so anyways, that's a little update with that on what we have been through, where we are at now, and let's just continue on. And I just hope that encourages any of you guys that are going through that. I share this because I want you to be encouraged. If you are going through it yourself, if you are going through it yourself, stay encouraged, stay close to God, stay in prayer, stay in fasting, pray with your oil, stay in the word, and don't give up hope. Don't give up hope, because we don't serve a hopeless God. We serve a God that gives us hope in the future. And keep his word in your mind. Meditate over it. Repeat it. Move forward in it. Take steps in it. Activate it. Bring it to life. Speak it over your bones and your body and yourself and your children, your husband, your family. Speak it over everyone. And then, okay, so let's just get started before I keep going on that. So we are on, remember you guys, the week that we left off on was week 5. And the last day we did was day 2. Today is day 3, which is Matthew chapter 8-11. And the week 5 is, I need what you have. And like, wow, it's so anointed, this book, because we have been desperate for what God has. We are in desperate need, at least me and my family, in our situation, for what God has. And so I'm just going to start reading Matthew again, chapter 8. I am reading out of the NIV. This is the Bible that I took with me to the hospital that I was reading there. And it's funny because we're going to talk about miracles. I mean, like, we couldn't have planned it better. Which is why I think a lot is not a coincidence. It is the plans and timing of God. And so we're going to be speaking this. We're speaking life over my situation, over your situation. And so Matthew chapter 8, the title is Jesus Performs Many Miracles. So let me just get my glasses. and we'll just get right into it. Okay. And it says Jesus heals a man of leprosy. And so that's what we'll be going into. If this video goes too long, I'll do two parts, or we'll just see how it goes. Okay. So week 5, day 3. Week 5, day 3, you guys. Okay. Um, Here we go. When Jesus came down from the mountainside, large crowds followed him. A man with leprosy came and knelt before him and said, Lord, if you are willing, you can make me clean. Jesus reached out his hand and touched the man. I am willing, he said, be clean. Those are some of the words that I spoke directly over my daughter. I said, Lord, if you are willing, you can heal Victoria. If you are willing, Lord Jesus, heal Victoria. Speak it over your life. Speak it over your situation, because for this man, it worked. For this man, Jesus was willing and Jesus healed him. Jesus reached out his hand, touched the man. I am willing, he said, be clean. Immediately he was cleansed of his leprosy. Then Jesus said to him, see that you don't tell anyone, but go show yourself to the priest and offer the gift Moses commanded as a testimony to them. And then now we move on to a Roman centurion demonstrates faith. Sorry, you guys. Let me make sure that you guys can hear. A Roman centurion demonstrates faith. Verse 5, it says, when Jesus had entered Capernaum, I forgot how to pronounce that, Capernaum, a centurion came to him asking for help. Lord, he said, my servant lies at home, paralyzed, suffering terribly. Jesus said to him, shall I come and heal him? Question mark. The centurion replied, Lord, I do not deserve to have you come under my roof, but just say the word and my servant will be healed. He had so much faith that he said, just say the word and my servant will be healed. For I myself am a man under authority with soldiers under me. I tell this one, go, and he goes, and that one come, and he comes. I say to my servant, do this, and he does it. When Jesus heard this, he was amazed and said to those following him, truly, I tell you, I have not found anyone in Israel with such great faith. And there's only, I believe, a few instances in the Bible where Jesus says that someone has great faith. And this is one of them, where the man was just saying, just say a word and it can be done. You don't even have to come and touch him. You don't even have to come and be in the same room. Just say the word. And I truly believe that. I truly believe and declare in front of anyone and everyone that if God just says the word, my daughter will be healed. I truly believe that if God just says, Pinky, come to life, that it will come to life, that blood will pump into those dark places and it will come to life and everyone will be stunned and amazed. And so I plead with God. And I ask him and I tell him and I say, Lord, just say the word. And I know that it can be done because I just know that our God is that able, that he's that able to do these things. I believe that he's done it before for other people. I believe that he's done it for this man here. I believe that he's done it for the man with leprosy. I believe that he's done it for Lazarus. I believe that he's done it I believe this to be truth. I believe this to be truth. And so I know that what he's done then, he can do now and he can do in the future. And so I pray this and I pray this and I declare this over my daughter and I wait for his perfect timing for it. And I encourage you to do the same, to declare this over your life and your situation, your family and your friends. And so then it says, so Jesus, he was amazed, right? And he said, I've never found anyone in Israel with such great faith. Verse 11 says, I say to you that many will come from the east and the west and will take their places at the feast with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But the subjects of the kingdom will be thrown outside into the darkness where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then Jesus said to the centurion, go, let it be done just as you believed it would. And his servant was healed at that moment. Then it says Jesus heals Peter's mother-in-law and many others. Verse 14 says, when Jesus came into Peter's house, he saw Peter's mother-in-law lying in bed with a fever. He touched her, and the fever left her, and she got up and began to wait on him. When evening came, many who were demon-possessed were brought to him, and he drove out the spirits with a word and healed all the sick. This was to fulfill what was spoken through the prophet Isaiah. Okay. And then it says he took up our infirmities and bore our diseases. Jesus teaches about the cost of following him, the cost. Verse 18 says, when Jesus saw the crowd around him, he gave orders to cross to the other side of the lake. Then a teacher of the law came to him and said, "Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go." Jesus replied, "Foxes have dens and birds have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head." Another disciple said to him, "Lord, first let me go and bury my father." But Jesus told him, "Follow me and let the dead bury their own dead." And then we're at Jesus calms the storm. Verse 23 says, then he got into the boat and his disciples followed him. Suddenly a furious storm came on the lake so that the waves swept over the boat. But Jesus was sleeping. The disciples went and woke him, saying, "Lord, save us, we're going down." He replied, "You of little faith, why are you so afraid?" Then he got up and rebuked the winds and the waves, and it was completely calm. Verse 27 says, the men were amazed and asked, "What kind of man is this? Even the winds and the waves obey him." Jesus sends demons into a herd of pigs. Verse 28 says, when he arrived at the other side in the region of the Gadarenes, 2 demon-possessed men coming from the tombs and met him. They were so violent that no one could pass that way. "What do you want with us, Son of God?" they shouted. "Have you come here to torture us before the appointed time?" Some distance from them, a large herd of pigs was feeding. The demons begged Jesus, "If you drive us out, send us into the herd of pigs." He said to them, "Go." So they came out and went into the pigs, and the whole herd rushed down the steep bank into the lake and died in the water. Those tending the pigs ran off, went into the town, and reported all this, including what happened to the demon-possessed men. Then the whole town went out to meet Jesus, and when they saw him, they pleaded with him to leave their region. We're on chapter 9, you guys, now, and it says Jesus heals a paralyzed man. Jesus stepped into a boat, crossed over, and came to his own town. Some men brought to him a paralyzed man lying on a mat. When Jesus saw their faith, he said to the man, "Take heart, son, your sins are forgiven." At this, some of the teachers of the law said to themselves, "This fellow is blaspheming." Knowing their thoughts, Jesus said, "Why do you entertain evil thoughts in your hearts? Which is easier to say, 'Your sins are forgiven,' or to say, 'Get up and walk'? But I want you to know that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins." So he said to the paralyzed man, "Get up, take your mat, and go home." Then the man got up and went home. When the crowd saw this, they were filled with awe, and they praised God who had given such authority to man. Then where we're at, Jesus eats with sinners at Matthew's house. Verse 9 says, as Jesus went on from there, he saw a man named Matthew sitting at the tax collector's booth. "Follow me," he told him, and Matthew got up and followed him. While Jesus was having dinner at Matthew's house, many tax collectors and sinners came and ate with him and his disciples. When the Pharisees saw this, they asked his disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" On hearing this, Jesus said, "It is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. But go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice, for I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners." Religious leaders ask Jesus about fasting, which we were just talking about, you guys. So fasting, and it's so important, you guys. And I encourage you, like, if you're intimidated as I was, just do it. Have something, in your mind enough, the things above, the things of the kingdom that help you overcome your physical needs. I almost feel like if you're desperate enough, you will do things beyond you can imagine. You would be able to push your body beyond what you think you can push your body to do. Um, and so let's just go on. At verse 14, it says, then John's disciples came and asked him, how is it that we and the Pharisees fast often, but your disciples do not fast? Jesus answered, how can the guests of the bridegroom mourn while he is with them? The time will come when the bridegroom will be taken from them, then they will fast. No one sews a patch of unshrunk cloth on an old garment, for the patch will pull away from the garment, making the tear worse. Neither do people pour new wine into old wineskin. If they do, the skins will burst, the wine will run out, and the wineskins will be ruined. No, they pour new wine into new wineskins, and both are preserved. Now we're at where Jesus heals a bleeding woman and restores a girl to life. While he was saying this, a synagogue leader came and knelt before him and said, my daughter has just died, but come and put your hand on her and she will live. Jesus got up and went with him, and so did his disciples. Just then, a woman who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years came up behind him and touched the edge of his cloak. She said to herself, if I only touch his cloak, I will be healed. When Jesus turned and saw her, take heart, daughter, he said, your faith has healed you. And the woman was healed at that moment. Verse 23 says, when Jesus entered the synagogue leader's house and saw the noisy crowd and people playing pipes, he said, go away, the girl is not dead, but asleep. But they laughed at him. After the crowd had been put outside, he went in and took the girl by the hand, and she got up. News of this spread through all that region. And then we're at Jesus heals the blind and mute. As Jesus went on from there, two blind men followed him, calling out, have mercy on us, son of David. Son of David, verse 28 says, when he had gone indoors, the blind man came to him and he asked them, do you believe that I am able to do this? Yes, Lord, they replied. Then he touched their eyes and said, according to your faith, let it be done to you. And their sight was restored. Jesus warned them sternly, see that no one knows about this. But they went out and spread the news about him all over that region. While they were going out, a man who was demon possessed and could not talk was brought to Jesus. And when the demon was driven out, the man had been mute, spoke. The crowd was amazed and said, nothing like this has ever been seen in Israel. But the Pharisees said, it is by the prince of demons that he drives out demons. So they're calling him a prince of demons. Like, can you believe that? And then it says, Jesus urges the disciples to pray for workers. Verse 35, Jesus went through all the towns and villages, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom, and healing every disease and sickness. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them, because Jesus is compassionate. And we have to remember that Jesus is so compassionate. He had compassion on them because they were harassed and helpless like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into his harvest field. Now we're on chapter 11. You guys remember we're going to chapter 12 today. Jesus sends out the 12 disciples. Jesus called his 12 disciples to him and gave them authority to drive out impure spirits and to heal every disease and sickness. These are the names of the 12 apostles. First, Simon, who is called Peter, and his brother Andrew, James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew, the tax collector, James, son of Alphaeus, and Thaddeus, Simon and Zealot, and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him. These 12 Jesus sent out with the following instructions. Do not go among the Gentiles or enter any town of the Samaritans. Go rather to the lost sheep of Israel. As you go, proclaim this message. The kingdom of heaven has come near. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse those who have leprosy, drive out demons. Freely you have received, freely give. Do not get any gold or silver or copper or take with you in your belt, no bag for the journey or extra shirt or sandals or a staff, for the worker is worth his keep. Whatever town or village you enter, search there for some worthy person and stay at their house until you leave. As you enter the home, give it your greeting. If the home is deserving, let your peace rest on it. If it is not, let your peace return to you. If someone will not welcome you or listen to your words, leave that home or town and shake the dust off your feet. Truly, I tell you, it will be more bearable for Sodom and Gomorrah on the day of judgment than for that town. And then it says, Jesus prepares the disciples for persecution. Verse 16, I am sending you out like sheep among wolves. Therefore, be as shrewd as snakes and as innocent as doves. Be on your guard. You will be handed over to the local councils and be flogged in the synagogues. On my account, you will be brought before governors and kings as witnesses to them and to the Gentiles. But when they arrest you, do not worry about what to say or how to say it. At that time, you will be given what to say, for it will be not you speaking, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you. Brother will betray brother to death, and a father his child. Children will rebel against their parents and have them put to death. You will be hated by everyone because of me, but the one who stands firm to the end will be saved. When you are persecuted in one place, flee to another. Truly, I tell you, you will not finish going through the towns of Israel before the Son of Man comes. Verse 24 says, the student is not above the teacher, nor a servant above his master. It is enough for students to be like their teachers and servants like their masters. If the head of the house has been called Beelzebul, how much more the members of his household? So do not be afraid of them, for there is nothing concealed that will not be disclosed, or hidden that will not be made known. What I tell you in the dark, speak in the daylight. What is whispered in your ear, proclaim from the roofs. Do not be afraid of those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul. Rather, be afraid of the one who can destroy both soul and body in hell. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground outside your Father's care. And even the very hairs of your head are all numbered. So don't be afraid. You are worth more than many sparrows. Whoever acknowledges me before others, I will also acknowledge before my Father in heaven. But whoever disowns me before others, I will disown before my Father in heaven. Do not suppose that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to turn a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies will be the members of his own household. Anyone who loves their father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. Anyone who loves their son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. Whoever does not take up their cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Whoever finds their life will lose it, and whoever loses their life for my sake will find it. Verse 40 says, anyone who welcomes you welcomes me, and anyone who welcomes me welcomes the one who sent me. Whoever welcomes a prophet as a prophet will receive a prophet's reward, and whoever welcomes a righteous person as a righteous person will receive a righteous person's reward. And if anyone gives even a cup of cold water to one of these little ones who is my disciple, truly I tell you, that person will certainly not lose their reward. Now we're on chapter 11, you guys, which is the last chapter for today, which says Jesus teaches about the kingdom. And it says Jesus eases John's doubt. After Jesus had finished instructing his 12 disciples, he went on from there to teach and preach in the towns of Galilee. When John, who was in prison, heard about the deeds of the Messiah, he sent his disciples to ask him, are you the one who is to come, or should we expect someone else? Jesus replied, go back and report to John what you hear and see. The blind receive sight, the lame walk, those who have leprosy are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, and the good news is proclaimed to the poor. Blessed is anyone who does not stumble on account of me. As John's disciples were leaving, Jesus began to speak to the crowd about John. What did you go out into the wilderness to see? A reed swayed by the wind? If not, what did you go out to see? A man dressed in fine clothes? No, those who wear fine clothes are in king's palaces. Then what did you go out to see? A prophet? Yes, I tell you, and more than a prophet, this is the one whom it is written. I will send my messenger ahead of you who will prepare your way, before you. Truly, I tell you, among those born of women, there has not risen anyone greater than John the Baptist, yet whoever is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he. From the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven has been subjected to violence, and violent people have been raiding it. For all the prophets and the law, yes, for all the prophets and the law prophesied until John. And if you are willing to accept it, he is the Elijah who was to come. Whoever has ears, let them hear. To what can I compare this generation? They are like children sitting in the marketplaces and calling out to others. We played the pipe for you, and you did not dance. We sang a dirge, and you did not mourn. Verse 18 says, For John came neither eating nor drinking, and they said he has a demon. The Son of Man came eating and drinking, and they said, Here is a glutton and a drunkard, a friend of tax collectors and sinners, but wisdom is proved right by their deeds. Now we're in where it says Jesus rest for the soul. Verse 20, which says, Then Jesus began to denounce the towns in which most of his miracles had been performed because they did not repent. Verse 21 says, Woe to you, Chorazin, woe to you, Bethsaida, for the miracles that were performed in you and had been performed in Tyre and Sidon, they would have repented long ago in sackcloth and ashes. But I tell you, it will be more bearable for Tyre and Sidon on the day of judgment than for you. And you, Capernaum, you will be lifted to the heavens. No, you will go down to Hades. For if the miracles that were performed in you and had been performed in Sodom, it would have remained to this day. But I tell you that it would be more bearable for Sodom on the day of judgment than for you. Verse 25 says, At that time, Jesus said, I praise you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, because you have hidden these things from the wise and learned. You revealed them to little children. Yes, Father, for this is what you were pleased to do. Verse 27 says, All things have been committed to me by my Father. No one knows the Son except the Father, and no one knows the Father except the Son, and those to whom the Son chooses to reveal him. Verse 28 says, Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. And that concludes chapter 11, you guys. So this was week 5, day 3. Tomorrow we'll cover day 4, which is Matthew chapters 25 to 15. I hope you've enjoyed this reading. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Okay, bye.